Let's go ahead with tactics and topics, 2 more from a big range, and then I'll be able to give some responses and answers, see how they come out. Working together with AI.
Great. For the next exercise, here are 2 tactics and a topic. Tactic, comparative analysis. Tactic, shock statement. Topic, ethical conduct. Feel free to craft your response, and I'll be here to provide feedback or discuss further.
A shock statement on ethical conduct is this: without ethics, a civilization will collapse irreversibly. With killing, with stealing, with sexual misconduct, with lying, with any form of harsh speech and vulgar speech and deceptive slander, then it will decline. With prevalence of alcohol and drugs, these will bring about the complete destruction from the inside out of a culture.
Your statement powerfully highlights the essential role of ethical conduct in maintaining the stability of a civilization. By identifying specific behaviors like stealing, lying, and substance abuse, you've illustrated how a lack of ethics can erode trust and harmony, ultimately leading to societal collapse. To extend this, you might also consider providing examples or case studies of historical or contemporary societies where ethical breaches have led to significant declines. This could add depth to your argument and show how these principles apply in real-world scenarios.
Let's go ahead with 1 new topic and 1 new tactic.
Sure. How about using a personal anecdote as the tactic? And the topic could be compassion.
I'll give you a personal anecdote from my personal experience of compassion. In this case, I was contacted personally and directly by a complete stranger from Port Barton in Palawan. And this was a young lady of maybe 21, 22 years old, a single mother, who told me that she had gained her child by being raped. So I was questioning this, whether it was true, but it seemed after multiple questions to check out. So having been maybe drugged, raped, and found herself pregnant, and in a culture that doesn't endorse legal abortion under those kind of cases, she has then had a 1-year-old infant. So this was already the case that she was in poverty during that time. And then 2 days later, while I was already gathering funds to send to her just on account of needing to eat, she was very concerned because there was flooding, there was heavy rains, and there was no food in the house for 2 days, including for her infant. So I gathered and put out a call and asked specific people, including a doctor, an eye doctor in Australia, who was born in Malaysia and had witnessed charity giving by her grandparents. I already knew this, that she may be a suitable person. Her husband is a surgeon, she is an eye doctor, so they're fairly comfortable, and they have their own children. But they stepped in, so they offered, and then within 2 days, there was another call out from her, and I was already concerned about dependency. The compassion is there, but we also need to be careful that in giving compassionate aid, we are not creating a toxic dependency, which ultimately in the long run would be bad for that person. So I was wary of the call and not particularly receptive. And then I realized that it was a completely different situation that was happening, and that was that she had been bitten by a wild stray dog. And the stray dog had bitten her in the leg. And there is a risk of death through rabies, and rabies is an extremely painful situation. She also has an infant with her. So in this case, I put the news out, the spread onto my network of people in that island of Palawan that I know. And one of the children that I know, or a teenager by now, managed to scout through her friend group and then find one person who on her main page had shown that actually she had the first person I'm talking about had some rabies injections. However, so there was photographs of this actually happening the previous day. So I was a bit concerned maybe this was a case of sort of slight slippery-handedness. So I inquired to that person, and it turned out they are 19 years old, still at school, and they had used the last bit of their own money to pay for the injections so that her neighbour friend wouldn't die. So another act of her compassion. So therefore, as it unfolded, it turned out that both of these ladies, one was a single mum and the other one at schooling, did not have parents. Their parents had either died during COVID or had fled and abandoned them and gone off and just left them. And this was the case. So one of them, this person, who's basically an orphan and now a student of 19 years old, had spent the last of their money to pay for those rabies injections. The rabies injections tend to come in batches of 3, and a checkup as well, and the transportation to go there. Port Barton is 3 hours from the major city of Puerto Princesa. So quite a complex network of events happening in there where compassion goes in. But it made me also more aware of the second person's circumstances, which is not unusual in this. And so we raised funds, and those funds paid for other things like an upcoming school uniform, art project materials, and reimbursed back the rabies injections and paid for the next upcoming ones, during which that time both of their rent day happened. And neither of them at that point were being able to work. And one of them worked as doing laundry by hand, which is a tiny amount of income. And it's not only just enough to survive on, only just, if not that. So I was able to have some awareness, not only the awareness, but able to respond and call out to other people who are responsive. When all our multiple eyes were on the situation, we realized there's a situation here, people are vulnerable, and they're vulnerable for further rape as well, I should add. There are 2 single, relatively attractive, sort of young, available, single people, and they are just on their own in the middle of nowhere, in a very sort of remote area. So there is a risk there that whoever did the rape on the first case is also not apprehended yet, and they are also out in the public. So there's multiple conditions in there where also I'm trying to explain to both of these individuals what we are doing and why and how it works and how it won't work. We don't want to create dependency. We aren't a long-term solution, that they have to get back to work, recover, get trainings, and get both keeping the schooling going, not dropping out, but also doing that. Also, so all of these come under the rubric of compassion in action, with some of the multiple complications, including other things, other critical eyes on saying you shouldn't do that, they're tricking you, and all this. So I have to also validate their stories and find out what's going on. So this is compassion, and this is a real anecdote that happened only in the last few days of September 2024.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Our systems are
You have my
experiencing heavy
compassion.
load. Please try again later.
No, thank you. You have my compassion. How about we try it again?
Of course. For a new topic and tactic, let's go with grit as the topic and historical comparison as the tactic.
Can you repeat what the subject was? I got historical comparison.
The topic is grit, and the tactic is historical comparison.
Grit. What did you say? Grit. Grit? Grit? I might have to read this.
Yes, grit. It's about determination
Oh,
and perseverance through challenges.
True, yeah. True grit, determination. And so a good example of true grit and the type of tactic and strategy is what exactly? Could you repeat that? Hello. It's a Sadhguru, isn't it? Hello.
Certainly. The tactic is analytical comparison, and the strategy is to use detailed real-world facts.
I would say that we could compare D-Day, Dunkirk, and this is the 1944 I think it is, on Normandy beaches, between Normandy beaches and the south coast of England, where there was very much grit displayed by all people involved, not only the soldiers of the Allied forces who were trapped on the beaches of Normandy with advancing Nazi troops coming across occupied France, but there was the organisation of a huge flotilla of private boats and commercial boats, merchant shipping, navy, to have every single craft they could move in one time under the protection of the Royal Air Force against bombing by the Luftwaffe in order to get the soldiers off the beaches and rescued back to the safety. And so the Normandy beach landings were extremely famous for being an example of very difficult conditions, and would only happen through one thing, and that is grit. So we could compare this kind of spirit of cooperation and voluntary effort with the response of the people in New Orleans during the Hurricane Katrina, which happened, I think it was 2013. And then there was a great social collapse. There was looting, there was abandonment, there was rape, and there was crisis and chaos for people who were trapped in their flooded houses. When other people came to the house, they would threaten to shoot them with shotguns. The police were basically turning onto the populace because of all the looting and because of all the behaviour breakdown. The moral fabric and the division was already existing, sort of rife conditions of fallen apart of public morality and community spirit had gone. Or you could compare this also with Tokyo, where after the tsunami, I think it was 2000, they had a tsunami after an earthquake, and there was a great destruction of houses in the front row of the coastline. And during that time, there was a great spirit of cooperation and very much obedience and clarity and good conduct that was very supportive, and this enormously helped the authorities in their efforts to try to recover from the situation and to help bring about aid to all the vulnerable people, the extremely young, the handicapped, the elderly, the trapped, the struggling people who are in remote areas, and bring about rescue relief. So there was no talk of needing to sort of start shooting and threatening people with the police and so on, as was put down by the administration at that time into the area where Hurricane Katrina, into the New Orleans area there. Okay, so that's a comparative analysis of a case of grit in the case of D-Day, which was grit, and in case of the Japanese example, however, not in the case of Hurricane Katrina, although Tzu Chi Foundation from Taiwan showed great grit by travelling great distances to assist those people.
That's a thorough and insightful comparison. You've effectively highlighted the differences in response and spirit in the face of adversity. Comparing the Allied grit in D-Day with the cooperative response in Japan, contrasted with the chaos in New Orleans, really underscores how determination and communal spirit can significantly impact recovery and resilience in crises. It's also an important point to note how the presence or absence of such qualities affects the overall outcome and stability in disaster situations.
Thank you. I'm going to wind up our session right here now and upload this YouTube to share with the public, and I hope that has illuminated people. Just to explain what I'm doing to the general public who are watching the YouTube, I have loaded more than 30 topics into AI and more than 40 strategies of types of tactics for taking a topic and treating it in different kind of ways. And those are typical, the best talk strategies. And I'm asking it to pull out any two without preparation so that it makes it more nimble and spontaneous and therefore interesting both to watch and to do on my behalf. It's a great tactic. Thanks to ChatGPT AI for being my talking companion.